In this video, we're going to talk about the stimulus package update for August the 8th. Now, there is no deal, but there are options moving forward. So we're going to talk about what's next. But before we do, if this is your first time at our channel or you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button at the bottom. My name is Travis Sickle, certified financial planner, helping you reach your financial goals. So we've been listening for the last couple of weeks and going back and forth with the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, going at it with the Republicans and Steven Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, and the Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and Mitch McConnell, Senator Mitch McConnell, going at it, trying to work out a deal, but none of them can figure out how to negotiate to get the deal done. So let's talk about a handful of scenarios that could possibly occur and exactly what they're going to look like. So the first scenario, what I think right now, where we're at, number one, is we have no deal. So the next step is the executive order. So President Trump has been talking about this executive order kind of in his back pocket, but we really don't know what he can actually do. But here's what's on the table for the executive order to see if he can get it through. So with the executive order, number one on the list, I'm going to put at the top is payroll tax cuts. Now, I've talked a little bit about how the payroll tax cuts works. I have a video on how to calculate self-employment tax, which will walk you through how to figure out that payroll tax cut and exactly what it'll mean for your paycheck. But if you're a W-2 employee, you're employed, you're getting a paycheck, that could possibly look like a boost of 7.65% in each paycheck. Now, the employer side will also get the same amount in their paycheck because when you get paid as a W-2, the employer is also matching that 7.65%, which is the payroll tax. So both the employer and the employee would win if they had a payroll tax cut because they'd both get a boost of 7.65% based on payroll. So there's a handful of things that would occur if those payroll tax cuts went into effect. So it would obviously boost the paychecks, reduce the tax bill, but it would also possibly boost morale because you're going back to work, you're getting a bigger paycheck and not having to pay those taxes even at a later point. And then you're getting employees back to work. So it's kind of competing with unemployment. So even if the enhanced unemployment from the federal government comes back at $600, it'll still compete with those wages that are right on the threshold of whether or not it makes sense to go back to work and open the doors so you can put more food on the table. The second point are the moratorium on evictions, but I was happy to see that they're also going to offer rental assistance because there's two sides to that. Because if there's only a moratorium on evictions and the landlord isn't getting paid, then they can't pay their bills and their mortgage and everything else that they have to deal with. And again, a lot of the landlords are not huge corporations that have deep pockets. A lot of these are mom and pops owning just a couple of properties that they're renting out. So it's on both sides of the coin. So if they're going to do the moratorium on evictions, they should absolutely do something on the other side for the landlords. So everybody is made whole, because if it was only a moratorium on evictions, it would basically just delay the inevitable problem of not being able to catch up. So if you can solve both sides, then that's going to make it a lot better for everybody. And the next point is the student loans. Now, it's unclear of exactly what this will look like, but getting assistance on the student loans, because that is a huge burden on anyone who has student loans. So if you have student loans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So to get an assistance where you don't have to make those payments, not only could they be pushed down the road, but they can get rid of your interest and put the payment on the backside, or just get rid of it altogether until we're through the pandemic. That'll be a huge boost for a lot of people. And then there's the unemployment, extending that $600 until they can figure out how to come to the deal. So those are the points that I think that President Trump could possibly use through executive order. Now, I don't know if legally he can use the executive order on any one of these points, but I think these are the targets in the short term to use the executive order. The second scenario that could occur is if a deal actually gets pushed through before the executive order. And I think that if a package does come before the executive order, we won't see an executive order on any of the points that I just went through, and it will be more robust. So the package could possibly looking at the stimulus checks. It's almost clear that if a package does get signed, it's going to have the stimulus checks. Just a matter of, is it 1,200? Is it 1,000, 2,000? We really just don't know. And then there's the evictions and the rent assistance that we talked about. I think that will be a part of the package. We'll have the student loans, the unemployment insurance, that will get pushed through. So if it's $600 for the rest of the year, which could be very likely, it's very unlikely that it'll only be the $200 that the Republicans recommended or proposed a few weeks ago in the HEALS Act that will convert to the 70%, 75%. And then we're looking at state and local support. And I think that is probably the reason that the deal isn't through yet, that there's a lot of money going to state and local government, and the Democrats want to see a lot of it to go to state and local, and Republicans not so much. And so that's a huge point that they're battling over. And the last one I'll point out would be the child care tax credit. That would be a huge boost for those paying for child care, because there has to be a child care solution to get people back to work, because the child care industry took a huge hit. So it's going to be very difficult to say, hey, go back to work, but we need to take care of our kids. Now, in this scenario, I don't believe that if the package goes through and the executive order isn't used, I don't believe that we're going to see a payroll tax cut. The Republicans and the Democrats have kind of made that clear, that if there is a package deal, that the payroll tax cuts are really off the table, but anything's possible. Scenario number 3 is a little grim. So there's no deal at this point, and the executive order doesn't go through because it's unclear if President Trump has any powers that he can actually use executive order on any one of these points. In my opinion, the belief that I've gotten is they're not even sure they can use executive orders on any one of these points. Could they cut payroll taxes? Could they extend the unemployment, have moratorium on evictions, give rental assistance? It's really unclear if they can do any of this stuff and to what degree and for how long. And this could look grim through the election. If everyone's stonewalling each other, they're not coming to an agreement, they can't use the executive order, it's going to get really difficult really fast. And it's just going to be a mess for us at the end of the day while the Republicans and the Democrats hash it out in Washington. Scenario number 4 is the executive order gets pushed through on a lot of the points we just talked about, and the deal for the stimulus package also makes it through. And here's why I think this is: if the executive order works and President Trump can actually make headway on any one of the points that we talked about, it's going to look like a win for the Republicans, and the Democrats won't have it. They're not going to have the Republicans win, so they want to have a win of their own. So then what will happen is they will come to the table and figure out how to get to a deal to get one of the points that they were trying to push through. Maybe it'll be a little bit smaller on the state and local government, but at the end of the day, they're going to claim a win, and so will the Republicans. So this is a likely scenario at this point, in my opinion. As far as getting assistance and getting help, this scenario could likely give us the biggest boost because both sides are going to want to have a show of force in getting assistance to the American people. Now, let me know in the comments down below which package you think is going to get pushed through. Are we going to see only the executive order get pushed through? Are we going to see a package? Are we going to see both or nothing at all? Now, that is your update for August the 8th. And if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and leave your comments down at the bottom.